Welcome to the video on study program development. In this video, I would like to give you a rough overview over certain aspects that have to be kept in mind when we develop study programs or when we support this process in our role as quality assurance officers. We will speak about study program design and study program revision, and I will briefly introduce you to some instruments for study program design or revision. Some of them will be dealt with in the following videos. In order to avoid potential misunderstandings, I would like to start by some definitions. This is just to make sure that we have the same concepts in mind when we use the words study program, curriculum, course, class, module, etc. And I suggest the following working definition. A curriculum is the planned order of topics and activities within a study program. In Germany, higher education institutions are quite free to design the contents of their study programs as they like. For most of the study programs we offer, we do not have any prescriptions which content has to be dealt with in a study program, except study programs which prepare for regulated professions, like for example medicine, law, or teachers' education. So if we in Germany would like to set up a curriculum, we can sit with experts and decide about the content and the structure of the curriculum. A study program is more than its curriculum. To a study program belong also the infrastructure that is available to carry out the program, support processes, and so on. This means if we would like to measure the quality of a study program, we would not only have to look at the curriculum, but also at other dimensions. In this video, I will speak about study program design, study program revision, and study program development. In doing so, I understand study program design as the first setup of a study program. By study program revision, I mean the evaluation and adaptation of a study program, and study program development includes study program design and revision. In a nutshell, I mean the following when I go further. We have a study program that has a curriculum which comprises several modules which are delivered in a number of sessions during one semester. Generally, there are some aspects which we usually take into account for the first setup of a study program. We can systematize these aspects into content-related aspects, methodological aspects, and organization-related aspects. In order to decide which content my prospective study program should have, I usually ask myself the following questions. Which competence profile should my graduates have? What should my graduates be able to do after they have obtained the degree? What is needed by the labor market? What are coherent and adequate objectives to be achieved in the program? What are thus the intended learning objectives of the program? Which is the target group to be reached by the program? And what are the entrance qualifications for the program? What are also strategic objectives of the faculty and the top management? Perhaps your institution wants to develop a special profile in the field of entrepreneurship. Then you might want to include modules in your study program which deal with exactly this topic. As for the methodology, the main question is to ask yourselves when you develop a study program, what are appropriate teaching and learning methods in order to support students to achieve the intended learning outcomes? Thus, to ask yourself how to design the course didactically. This also involves answering the question how to design the assessment in a way that it really can assess the achievement of the intended learning outcomes of the students. The question here is also how to combine obligatory and optional courses or modules. What content is necessary for all students in order to reach the intended learning outcomes, and where do we have potential for deepening knowledge in a particular field by optional courses? At least in the European higher education area, credits are awarded to students on the basis of workload. So for each module, we need to decide how much workload can be assigned to a respective module. A study program is not only the delivery of content and the design of the learning process of the student, but its development involves many organizational questions as well. Before you can enroll students in your program, you have to confirm that there is enough teaching capacity available in your organization in order to deliver the program. In addition to that, you will have to decide how to organize the development of module descriptions and examination regulations, how to organize admissions and assessments, and how to organize student exchange, for example. The latter also involves answering the question how to recognize records that students have achieved abroad. Last but not least, the certification and graduation of your students has to be organized too. In fact, there are even more aspects to keep in mind when you design a study program. However, this introduction might be able to give you a rough overview of what to generally keep in mind when study programs are developed. And these aspects are reflected in external requirements which are given to the higher education institutions by the law, thus by accreditation requirements. Let me give you some more also general aspects of what is needed to develop a study program. In one of the next videos, you will receive more insight into concrete processes of your country. First of all, you need an idea and a concept. In countries where there are no central prescriptions for the content of study programs, as for example in Germany, almost everybody in the university can come up with an idea for a new study program. In the German context, it is quite common that a group of lecturers come together and develop a sketch of a study program. The idea reflected in this sketch might have developed because these scholars usually are well aware of the development of their own subject area and the respective labor market, and usually they will try to meet the demands of the labor market and develop study programs that support students to acquire the qualification needed for the current or the prospective labor market. You cannot develop a study program alone. Thus, you need to convince your fellow lecturers that the study program you have in mind will be a good one and that it will fit to the current demands. After a faculty has agreed to think further about this initial study program idea, which was reflected in the first sketch, usually a more concrete concept for the study program, including the instructional design, will be developed. For the design of a study program, we can make use of didactical concepts and instruments like constructive alignment and backward design. We will get to know about these concepts in one of the next videos. For both design and revision, you can also make use of data in order to take informed decisions. For example, if you want to set up a study program, you might want to carry out a needs assessment first in order to know whether there is really a demand for graduates in this field in the labor market. Of course, if you want to revise your study program, you will also need information about what to change. This information, for example, can be obtained by evaluations, etc. For the development of a study program, you will need certain processes. You will have to have project management that helps you to know what to do, when, with whom. You will need an information management, and especially for the revision of the program, you will need to have a PDCA or QA cycle that can be applied to your study program. Usually, all this is done by an expert group. In such a group, you will usually find different professors, lecturers, members of the deanery, representatives of the labor market, students, and also a quality assurance officer who can support the process. To sum it up a little bit, if you want to set up a study program, you can make very good use of an expert group, and you need to decide who will be sitting in that group. A second element you can make fruitful use of is the concept of designing your study program by thinking backwards. That is, by asking yourselves first, which qualification is the program aiming at, and what do I want my students to be able to do after they have finished my program? The second question would then be, which modules do I have to put in which order in my study program in order to support the students to achieve these learning outcomes? Last but not least, the more we communicate and the more transparent we are in a process, the more likely it is that this process will run smoothly. Thus, having clear who needs to know what, who will have to do what, will help you with every process and will also help you with developing study programs. Let me speak a little bit more about study program revision. This, of course, can be seen as QA in practice. In Germany, a study program revision is usually done by an expert group. Most of the time it would be the same experts as with study program design. They sit together and they speak about the program. More concretely, this means that this expert group will generate an image of the current status of the study program by analyzing different sources of information. Usually this information comes from course evaluation, university statistics like enrollment rates, dropout ratios, different types of student surveys, as well as tracer studies, which can give you an insight into the job career of your graduates, and employer surveys, which can give you an insight into whether your graduates do have the qualification they need in order to work in the job. And you can see it's really a mixed bag. And the more information this expert group has, the more data are triangulated, the clearer the image of the current situation of the study program will be. Let me finish this introduction into study program development by two beliefs. First, the success of an outcome-based study program depends on the active participation of anyone affected by it. It takes many to design a successful study program. Second, triangulate different data sources and include different internal and also external perspectives, but always keep your ownership of process and don't overestimate external input. External requirements by accreditation commissions and input by external experts are very helpful indeed, but the internal stakeholders are the ones who know their study program in much more detail. They know the history, they know the background, and most of the time they also know best the weaknesses and challenges of their study program. Thus, external input should be one source of information to improve a study program, but in my opinion, it should not be the only one. Please make up your minds on the following questions and write down your opinion in the comment section of this YouTube channel so that we can start an active discussion. In your opinion, what makes a good study program? And how can QA officers support study program development? Let's discuss. Thank you very much for watching. I would very much appreciate if you participated in the discussion in the comment section of this video. See you in the next video. Goodbye.